Today we are interviewing Jessica Powers, and she and her husband have the most incredible story. And I'm so excited to be able to bring her to you today because her journey is not from the very beginning of playing and working with wood at a little age. This is a beautiful, beautiful story of the person that she is, the challenges she faces as a wife, a mom, a person that is navigating life. I met her at our Chamber of Commerce first event, and what captured me was her essence of her logo on her vest, her hat. She came with such warmth. And when you're looking at growing your business and stepping into a very awkward, I don't care who you are, if you don't think networking isn't awkward, then you are of a different cloth because there's not a single person that walks into an event for the first, second, maybe even first 10 times that you're not like feeling, ugh. And she had this warmth about her that made me want to talk to her, made me want to inquire what the logo is about. And then what was behind the logo is so much more. And I can't wait for you to get to meet her. And we've been able to take it deeper in our commitment to ourselves and our businesses and our community by showing up at a Thursday morning meeting at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. She has kids. She has things that are going on. It is so inconvenient to go at 7 a.m. and then it's not when you realize that there's energy and there's life with others who have created something from nothing. And we're all in the room to learn, to grow, to share. And what's so special is that she comes every week with a little bit of a twist and such. I love the depth in which she brings to our meetings. And I can't wait for you to know and love her, follow her, and step into a space with her and her husband that she can design and create something so memorable that you won't look at furniture the same way. So please, Miss Jessica, share with us more about you and how you ended up here with this beautiful backdrop.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maggie, first and foremost, for having me on today. I really appreciate you taking the time and to hear all those beautiful, kind words about me. I really appreciate that. My story is a very interesting one. Like you had mentioned, my background is not in woodworking whatsoever. I am actually a registered dietitian by trade. That is what my undergrad was in. I went to Central Michigan University, and straight from there, I went to an internship at University of Michigan Hospital. Did that for a year, and then I immediately just fell into the dietetics world. I had passed my exam certification, and ultimately, my goal was to become a clinical dietitian. I did it for one summer, and I decided I hated it. It was not for me. I did not like the rigidity of the schedule. I was doing the same thing every single day, even though it was different patients with different, medical situations and outcomes that needed to be prescribed. I could not do it. So what I ended up doing was getting a temporary job from one of my mentors as a temporary kitchen manager. So I worked in the room service kitchen. And I ended up loving being a manager so much that I stayed on for about 10 years as a manager. I loved building teams. I loved coming in every single day with a bright attitude, not knowing what the challenges of the day were going to be. And it was so much fun, such a great work environment. I decided that management wasn't enough for me and that I wanted to grow as a leader. I think primarily because I had some really incredible women mentors within my department. They were the ones that inspired me in terms of how to be a good leader, how to lead with empathy, and thinking about employees first. And so I followed that path and I eventually got a promotion as an associate director. And I did that for, it was like 3 years, I want to say. And I absolutely loved it in the beginning. I loved my teams. I loved what we did for patients. I loved the incredible stories that we would hear directly from patients and families for what we were doing for them. During the time that I was at U of M, I also met my husband who worked in the same department. So at that time, he was a cook, and that's what his background was in. He was a cook for many, many years, started as a dishwasher at Milford House in Milford, Michigan, and he left while I was still working there to pursue woodworking on the side. And then after about 3 years of me being an associate director, I couldn't do it anymore. I would go to work crying on my drive. I would drive home crying. The lack of leadership that I was receiving because all of my mentors had left and retired, very well deserved. But the leadership that I had every single day did not match my style of leadership. And I found that the friction that I was experiencing every day was creating an environment that was not good for me mentally, emotionally, physically. So after a lot of thought, I looked at what Cody was doing. He had started our LLC, Caps Artistry. He had opened up an Etsy shop and it was selling home decor. And he had transitioned to small pieces of furniture like coffee tables, side tables, and I looked at what he was growing. I heard his excitement at the end of every day, coming home from networking meetings and from all these fantastic experiences. He was out and about exploring in our community. And I said, I want to do that. I had been pursuing my master's in business administration online. And I decided, well, why not just take my freshly minted MBA and I can apply it to a real world business. So I quit my super comfy, cushy corporate job, ditched it, and said, "Hey, hun, I'm gonna do this with you full time." I don't really remember asking him permission. I just kind of told him it was over the holidays. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna just quit my job and be full time." And he kind of had like this look of shock on his face, but he was totally supportive, incredibly excited to have some help because, as any business owner knows, it's incredibly challenging to do it by yourself. So he can continue to be the creative and I can be the admin. Those are all my strengths and skills. I love a good spreadsheet. I love talking to people. I love being out in the community, expressing leadership and getting to know people. And it was a really fantastic balance. So I actually quit my job a little over a year ago. It was February 27th of 2024. No, 2025, sorry. And the rest is kind of history. Um, I spent about 1 month trying to understand the lay of the land and what it felt like to not have to commute every day, what it felt like to be present for my kids. We've got a 6 and a 3-year-old, both boys. And I think the most heart-wrenching thing was when my oldest Aiden, he said, "Are you done crying?" And I said, "Oh, I had no idea what an impact that corporate life and the rat race that I was in every single day. I had no idea the influence it was having on my kids." So after that month of just kind of like acclimating to a new schedule, working from home every single day, seeing Cody during the day every single day, um, I knew I had made the right choice. And the rest is pretty much history. I've really discovered what a passion I have for our business, which I'd had from the start when Cody opened the business. I saw the interactions he had had with clients, walking into their open space. They have perhaps no idea what exactly they want from an aesthetics perspective, but they know what they need from a functionality perspective. Maybe they have kids and they need to think about meals with their kids. Maybe they have giant family get-togethers, and that's something that they need to consider. He'd walk into a business and look at the brand and the image that those business owners wanted to convey to their clients. And he said, "I can help you. I can help you create the space to put your best foot forward when that client walks through the door." And to see how he worked through that process, I was so excited to join and to be able to be a part of that. So what I do is different than what Cody does. He is definitely the visionary. He is the builder with the hands. Don't let me loose with a sander because I don't know what I'm doing. But you can give me a spreadsheet and I can do that all day long. I love to get out there and spread the word of how custom furniture can impact someone's life, whether it's a homeowner buying their first home, maybe they're retired and they're finally ready to treat themselves, to furniture that's actually quality and doesn't fall apart within 2 to 3 years, to walk into a business and tell them how furniture can help promote their business. Um, getting to be able to do all of those things now is such a breath of fresh air. Something that I realize now doing this for over a year is what I was missing in my corporate life. And that was just surrounding myself with a positive network, whether it's community members, whether it's a nonprofit organization, whether it's a fellow small business owner, maybe it's a large business and they've started from the bottom and they've worked their way up. Getting to know people who have gone through the steps that we have gone through is incredibly powerful. And anytime I feel maybe doubt, because it is very challenging to be a small business owner, just sitting down and having a one-on-one conversation with someone, the power it brings to be like, you know what? I am doing this for the right reason. What we are doing is important. Every category of business has value, and what we do is valuable. I think that that is just so important. My corporate life did not have that positivity after I lost my mentors. Um, and to see that every single day is important. To have yourself surrounded by positive and engaging people who are there to uplift you is so important. I have found that collectively, Cody and I have just become more positive people. I think I'm always been half glass full, but to see him come with me on this journey now, that he actually started for us has been really incredible. Um, I think if I had any words of wisdom for someone who, for women who maybe went through that same corporate experience that I did, it's that loyalty shouldn't equate to the amount of time that you spend somewhere in a location. I stayed in my role, in my manager and leadership roles so long because I felt like I had to. I felt like I had been there for so long that they needed me. My team needed me. I was the carrier of all of the historical knowledge, and to leave would mean I was leaving them in the dust too. And that's not what loyalty is. It shouldn't be a timestamp in how long you've stayed somewhere. Um, for me, it's really the character, loyalty to who you are as a person, loyalty to how you handle situations consistently. Um, that's what's really important. And that's some advice that I would give others who maybe are currently living in that corporate world and they're questioning their everyday sanity and questioning if that drive is worth it every day and the time that they're sacrificing with their family and friends, if it's really worth it. Think about who they are, what they want to be doing with their time, how they want to be spending their time, and what they need to do to make a change, to hold a different position in life.
Wow. If that is not really, oh my gosh, literally, I have the hair on my arm is like standing up. Um, because I'm sitting here in the position that I am, that I end up in spaces and I have my entire life where people will tell me things and I never thought anything about it because that's how it's always been until my husband would say, people tell you the craziest things. Well, they don't tell me the craziest things. It's that I'm willing to ask the harder questions that people aren't willing to ask. Like, how are you? Fine. Okay. Right? Like be on your way. No impact on either side. The word fine, the question, bleh. Well, when it's a deeper question, like you asked yourself, and this wasn't a part, I'm totally going rogue, and I believe you can go there. And I, like I said, I have the chills for a reason because you're hitting on some topics that is real to so many women. So many women. And so you had your husband's opportunity that was scary as heck, right?
Very.
It wasn't a franchise. It wasn't a, hey, guess what? You do this, this, and this, you'll get this, this, and this. It's like trial by error. And as much as the wood that I'm sure you guys chuck, literally, that was not, and I didn't mean it that way, but literally you're going to get rid of, or try to reuse, or you know what I mean? There's so many
Hmm.
dimensions
Yep.
to physically that piece. what would you give advice to someone who doesn't have a family business, doesn't have something to transition to? Because I wrote down the who, the what, the how, and really understanding what to do to make the change. What advice would you give? Because I'm sure that you've seen it, you've felt it, you've understood it, that not everybody has that to step into. So, what advice maybe would you give them?
My biggest advice would be to do the self-reflection. Carve the time out every day, every week. It doesn't need to be an hour every single day. It can be 5 to 10 minutes of reflection and ask the question, who do I want to serve? Or what do I want to do? Or how do I enjoy spending my time? When you ask yourself those types of questions, you can narrow down the type of work that you might be interested in, and you can head towards a direction, at least go down a path. You're not going to just be stuck in the same spot. Once you start to ask those questions, you can start to narrow down the path. Maybe I want to help people heal. I've never considered a career in nursing. How do I get to a path in nursing? Is nursing something that I'm going to enjoy when I actually get to the end of the road? Maybe talk to actual women in that profession and see what their firsthand experience is. So you're not going into something blind. But I honestly think the act of reflection is so important. I was very lucky that Cody had already started building up our business. And I think at the end of the day, even if Cody had not started our business, I still would have left and I would have found something different. For me, in my self-reflection, I needed a work environment that was not toxic. So if I had decided, okay, I'm going to go straight back into a different corporate job, those are questions I was going to be asking in the interview process.
Mhm.
Please describe to me your work environment. If you polled your employees, how would they say their day-to-day interactions are with one another, with their manager,
Mm.
with each other and their peers? I don't think we do well enough in society. Women being out for themselves, putting themselves first, or being afraid. I was so afraid to ask questions. There were so many times, so many moments in my career where I was like walking out of a meeting. I was like, oh, should I ask that question? I should have said it. I had it written down, but I just, I chickened out and I should have done it. In hindsight's 2020. So I think when we can be brave, that's important. I think the reflection is very important. And that would be my biggest advice if someone is struggling with that corporate world, or even if it's not a corporate position, they just feel stuck with where they're at and they feel like they have no other options. They do. They just need to put in a little bit of time, think, listen to their thoughts, trust their intuition.
I couldn't agree more. And what I found is that part of what I've created for myself was that support system because so many times we're not in a good support system, whether it's our home in the sense of, we're married typically, I've found typically to the opposite. God's humor that it's made it that way, that we are so different and which is great for our kids because they see the diversity. Yet sometimes that can be hard because you have a corporate person and then you have a not corporate person, or you have
Mhm.
an educated education and then trial by error. I mean, there's a variation of all the things that gives us our diversity. And support is one of those things because somebody can be like super encouraging, but not knowing how or what that looks like. And there is security in a corporate paycheck. There is
Absolutely.
security in a number of days that you get and you are able to take off, yet there's no security when things are not okay.
Absolutely. And the security, I would add on to that, the security of having a person to talk to, whether it's a spouse or a best friend or someone that you meet in the community, you go to like, a community meetup, having someone that you can consistently talk to and they're going to be uplifting about ideas that you have, not to just paint a rainbow for you and to tell you, yep, this is going to be perfect, but to talk through things with you intelligently and to give you sage advice, to have that person in your life, um, that in itself is like a pot of gold.
I couldn't agree more. And that's the space in which, over the years of being in direct sales, network marketing, I had an incredible mentorship. I had like strategic positioning where I could ask for help. I could ask for ideas. I could literally follow in what they had for success. And it was so beautiful. And so when I left that to go on my own, my system was broken. I'd go to Bible studies, I'd go to churches, I'd physically put myself in places. And not that those were bad and not that don't go. That physical part as a mom is super challenging. Like, especially you throw a little bit of sports into a weekend, it's like Sundays are not the Sabbath anymore. And there's not much you can do about it. Yet, what I find so fascinating as parents, and this won't be relatable to everybody because not everybody has kids, we would do anything to support our children in tutors, coaches, any kind of mentorship in youth group, in all these places we will put in place for our kids, and then we don't do that for ourselves. And we wonder why we feel like we're a hamster on a wheel. And so I can say right here and now that I created a support system with my online Worthy Collective because some of us are growing businesses and some of us are to the extreme of retired. As women, though, there's such an influence and such an inspiration that is so special, encouraging, and we're on a different walk in our faith. Some of us are so frustrated that we have, said to God, I'm going to drive. And God's laughing because that was me a long time ago when I was young. And I didn't understand where the little old ladies were like, hee hee hee, she has no idea. That's not how it works. And I was like, what's so funny? Didn't understand. But that support system, the mentorship, asking. And what I think is really, really brave there is the ask
Yes.
and realizing there's feedback you can use, which is Tamara, one of my clients, she's a performance coach. She's in my Worthy Collective. She says it all the time. There's feedback you can use and there's feedback you can lose. Because when you
Yeah.
take feedback from someone who has no, I mean, an easy one is parenting. I can get advice from somebody who doesn't have kids and they can give me some feedback. I love, adore, and respect them. But if they have not gotten up with a child 24/7 and understanding their needs change, there's some introspection in that is different. Not to mean that they don't have an idea that I can go, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. And they're relating to their childhood or visualizing something
Hmm.
that they notice that works. And not to say it's not applicable, it doesn't carry the same weight.
Absolutely.
So that I believe is so powerful, and more importantly, that you acknowledge what was not acceptable any longer. And it was such a blessing that you were able to step in. But I will say, not knowing you guys, but knowing what I do know, is that you stepped in to something sacred, which is a family business, but you're also taking your business into your marriage, in your home, your
Absolutely.
relationship as parents. And so all of those things that did shift and change. What advice would you give for that shift for a woman who is shifting and maybe not into the family business, but I remember when we did our one-on-one, your
Mhm.
commute and some of that time that was a little bit because now you're more responsible because your kids weren't in a set daycare because you were learning what was going to happen because it didn't mean everything would fall back on you, which is what a
Mhm.
woman is like, I'm going to take a moment, regroup, and then that's like, okay, well, everything that was being serviced
Mhm.
is coming your way.
Yes.
So what advice or, what would you say there that you find helpful?
I would say in switching roles and now finding myself with this extra time, the biggest advice I could give would be to take care of yourself. I wasted so much time sitting or putting out hypothetical fires or dealing with personnel issues. And I have found I am now finally able to grant myself the grace to take care of myself. I work out regularly, not because I feel like I have to, but because I want to and because my body is happier as a result of doing that. I drink water, which seems like such a simple thing to say, but when you are constantly on the phone in Zoom meeting, I got my water right here. Zoom
Mhm.
meetings, you're walking from meeting to meeting, or you're going to meet with staff members. You don't take the simple time to drink water because then you have to go to the bathroom. Who has time to do that at work? I drink water now. I eat foods that are good for me. All of these things, which is it's funny because it's kind of full circle to my dietetics background. I'm actually doing all of the things that I would preach as a dietitian, right? I'm eating healthy. We've seen such a reduced amount of processed foods in our household. I can't remember the last time I bought packaged bread because I make my own bread. It's so simple.
Mm,
Um, so to take care of myself, to work out. And then I am feeling not only better physically, but now I'm feeling better mentally, and
mhm,
I can work smarter, not harder. That is then seen by my kids.
mhm,
And then they want to exemplify the same things. And it helps Cody because he is on a journey of trying to be more healthful as well. So as I'm taking care of myself and I find opportunities to help myself feel better and do better, that also bleeds into the rest of my family too. So it's a win-win in every scenario. Um, Taking the time to be alone, that's something else that I would really encourage. And I don't mean like just in the shower because I have kids knocking at the door when I take a shower or in the car. That's not a time to be alone because you're dealing with other drivers on the road. But finding moments, whether they're 5 minutes or an hour, whatever it is, appreciate it and don't just be looking on your phone the whole time. Do something for yourself. That would be a really big piece of advice that I would offer to someone making that transition into a new system of living.
mm. It's so wild because when you were talking about these tools and so being brave and having the reflection and the specific things that you would do, I literally wrote down what I find that men or women, people, we forget we're an example. Whether
Yes.
we're married, unmarried, we have kids, we don't have kids, we are an example. And that authenticity is non-negotiable. You know what I mean? Like, do as I
Mhm.
say, not as I do. Oh, well, that's great. Oh, how's that going to work out for you? Well, let me just tell you, as teenage world, it's not gonna. It's not. It literally, I can see these things that are taking me to a higher level because I'm like, wow, I don't want to be a hypocrite,
Hmm.
right? So that
Yeah.
example is beautiful, but more importantly, there is one other word that I use and people don't like it, but I love it, and you haven't said it, but the difference was you've given yourself permission.
Yes.
And the
Absolutely.
permission we forget about that no one's gonna do it to save, like, no one is coming to save us. No one. We must save ourselves. And when we
Absolutely.
do, then we give ourselves permission. But that example, it sounds like now it's rippling, into your marriage and the relationship that Cody is in 100% service of the physical, what he's creating with his mind and, fingertips,
Hmm.
um, is that service and that product. And that when you're doing it, you don't need to tell him, you don't need to make him. He's doing it because he's like, oh, I see it. Okay, I see
Absolutely.
what you're doing. And you came back refreshed. Doesn't mean you're not going to be angry, frustrated, or whatever. It's going to be a level lower though than that intensity that, like, when we get to that intensity, we must reflect. We must. Because that, if you don't realize that, like, I have to do it too. My kid said something about yelling. I'm like, I'm not a yeller. What they were feeling though in the evening was my frustration, but I wasn't yelling, but it was definitely a tone of frustration because I was at the end of my day. Because I hadn't properly taken a break. I haven't reset. I hadn't, same thing, check in with the water, like, is a little more depleted. Or those times where we don't realize when we are depleted, we grab more caffeine, whether it's coffee, tea, energy drinks, or, and we're jacked. And then we don't know, why in the world did I not go to sleep? Well, I don't know, maybe because you had caffeine after 2 o'clock. And some people even say afternoon. You know what I mean? Like those
Yep.
things that set us off, but it sets us off in that day, and then it's this like succession.
I tell Cody I am a lemon. And throughout my day, everyone is trying to squeeze all of the juice out of me. And whether it's, can you get me a snack? Or I need to talk to you on the phone at a really inconvenient time, or whatever it might be. Slowly throughout the day, I start as a whole lemon and all the juice gets squeezed out of me. And now I know I need to put some boundaries and barriers into my life to support my own well-being to prevent all the juice from getting squeezed out by the end of the day. And I do have the power to prevent in certain scenarios from that getting squeezed out all day long. Some things can't be avoided because I have toddlers, but it's my responsibility to what you said, Baggy. No one's going to come and save me. I have to be present and available for myself and to make sure that I am running smoothly as a ship so that the people around me can run smoothly as a ship.
Mm. And I love the visual of the lemon because the lemon has such, I'm learning so much about how good a lemon is for us. That so many times you're like making lemons out of lemonade out of lemons.
Mhm.
Well, great. And there's something special about recognizing when you do feel squeezed because
Absolutely.
when you're done, you're done.
Exactly. And you don't want to get to that point. You still want to have a little bit left, want a little bit juice left at the end of the day. For me, it's because I want to do a workout. I work out at the end of the evening after the boys have gone to bed. It's the perfect time for me to be alone, to not feel, pulled in a thousand directions. And if I don't have that juice left, then I feel tired and I shouldn't be feeling tired. So nowadays that doesn't happen as often. So
Good for
I feel
you.
that way.
But that's the part where I will say, I could talk to you all day. The part where I want to say right there that my wisdom is that we think okay, I'm going to do that, but you don't realize it's backwards. The only
Hmm.
way you're going to get here to that workout is boundaries, expectations, communication with your kids. We're going to have quiet time. We're going to read. We're going to have lights out, like so that that can get there
Exactly.
instead of, and that's so healthy for them to feel the security of structure. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be some wiggle room and, certain things, but it's the
Mhm.
specifics that here's the goal, here's the situation, and you're going to fill the gap with what you know is going to work. And that calmness and that excitement, I can only imagine because okay, I do this, this, and this, I win. And they do too.
Yep, exactly.
It's so beautiful. And so many times people are like, well, I'm going to get up and do this. And I'm like, okay, super. Talk to me about the night before. Talk to me about dinner. Or like for you, I'm sure that it makes a difference too with what you eat, when you eat it, how you eat it, because you're not going to literally go dinner to bed, dinner to bed
Exactly.
workout. You're
Exactly.
probably, am I right? Like
Yep.
you're positioning that in such a way that the
Hmm.
evening supports it. Now, it doesn't mean that it's always looks like that. Not exactly in the light of light in life and toddlers. Yet there's a structure. And we were just talking in the Worthy Collective last night, the difference between routine and rituals.
Hmm.
And the routine is what you do, but the ritual is the flexibility of saying, okay, that may not happen at 8 o'clock. It may
Exactly.
happen at 7:45 because mama needs a few minutes. Yet there's a communication of what that looks like and the freedom and independence to shift to our kids to say, this is what's happening, this is what we're doing, and those little tweaks to give them the understanding of why is that important.
Exact. The why. The why is so important throughout life, throughout every day. Um, the why is just so important for us. I feel like that. I love that you just said that because we have really worked as a business to understand our why, but also as parents to understand our why, and as husband and wife, like what is the why? Why are we doing what we're doing? And when you take the time to reflect and understand that, it's just so much healthier, and you're able to get down the path and towards your goals that you're working towards much easier, fewer obstacles.
I needed to hear that today because I do vitamins just knowing that supplementally that we don't get everything we need and we have a garden. This is year 2 and
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be exciting. I haven't gotten into the bread part, but I do giggle because I have a friend, her little message just popped up and said, we need to talk about my yeast. And I was like, if anybody read our text, dude, be like, what? Well, she wants to pass something on to me, and I'm excited
Oh,
about
nice.
service. You know what I mean? Like something
Yeah.
different. But I also
Yeah.
know there's some value, not some, lots of value from that. But essentially, it came down to the why of my kids with vitamins because they were giving me such a hard time. I'm like, you guys. And then I literally this morning said it and I was like, I haven't said this lately. Do you know why it's important? And they were both like, 12 and 14, I'm going to have to be a commercial that repeats, but what
Over
I
and over.
realized is my repeat of why I was doing this hasn't been as clear because it's
Hmm.
not their fault and it's not my fault either.
No,
It's what it is.
exactly.
So this is a supplementation and this is what they do and this is why we take those.
Yeah.
And when you want to play sports, you want to do life at a high level, you want to fill those gaps. But I needed to hear that right there. I highlighted it, reminder, because
See,
especially,
I'm very lucky with the why currently because I get reminded constantly. My 3-year-old asks me about 1,000 questions per day, and my 6-year-old is just so curious. He's so curious that it's easy to be able to share the why because they're half the time they're, well, why? Well, why? Well, why do I need to pick up my shoes? Well, why do I need to wash my hands before I eat? So
yeah,
I'm
and
lucky right now.
that season is fantastic. And
Yeah.
now, yeah, there is a
Yeah.
shift. I do remember that, and it's beautiful that you see it as a positive. And a lot of those questions are funny because when you ask yourself, like, why is that? You know what I
I
mean?
don't
Check
know
in.
why we do
What?
it that way.
And the percentage of saying because I said so is not going to land as well for everything as much as we want to. We need to be
Exactly.
little more creative. So
Yeah.
tell me what would you like to share? I know I've got a website to share with that everyone, your amazing stories and who you've served. What kind of offer do you want to send out and the ask? How can we serve you back?
I would say the biggest way to be able to help us and to serve us is to follow us on all of our social media. I know you're going to share all of them, but Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We would love the more people that just see our story. We feel like we have a lot of value to offer the community, not just with the actual products and services, um, but just to be an example of what I'm going to say normal people do as small business owners.
Real? How about real people?
Real people. So we appreciate all the support that we can get. You do not need to buy furniture from us to be supportive. I think any good vibes that are sent to us, any positive comment, we really appreciate that support. Um, and just being supportive of each other as women who are each on a different journey, and you never know where you're going to land, or if you're in your final landing spot, this might be just a passing zone. But just to be supportive of one another too.
I can do that 100%. And I know many who will watch this will feel the love. And I believe it's going to initiate a curiosity of, I know since I met you, I've walked through my home differently and thinking some things I've had in my home for quality, like this big giant thing behind us, has such meaning. And it's a
Hmm.
solid piece of wood that my father-in-law said that he will never help us move again because it's so
Yeah,
solid, but it was
exactly.
handmade and
Hmm.
it has a story.
Yes,
And so I don't know the makers, but I know the place in which I bought it years and years ago. And there's different meaning. And I can name all the names that everybody thinks of that you can get inexpensively, and they will not generate the type of memory and opportunity of something that they can look at and enjoy and also pass on.
exactly.
And so that has brought to a completely different place. I know I've referred you to some people that I know that are building dream homes and they see the value and understand it. So I know that that ripple effect is going to be beautiful, whether it be a little tiny stand to somebody completely furnishing their entire home because there's such value in what you've created. So thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you.
dream and your dream come true for the actions in which you've been willing to take and the blessings of how opposite you are from Cody, that you can blend this so beautifully and the example for your boys. Oh my gosh, what a gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.